the smell of salt and fear. You are no longer Alexandra Lisowska. That name died along with your village, burned to ash under the iron heels of raiders. Now, you are merely a commodity, jostled in the damp hold of a ship where the air is thick with sweat, despair, and the brine of the sea. When the hatch bursts open, the blinding light of Constantinople makes you squint, but it offers no warmth. It is cold and judging. You are dragged through the clamorous slave markets, where human worth is measured by the straightness of teeth and the firmness of flesh. But you are not sold to some aging merchant. Fate, or perhaps a curse, has delivered you to a place far more terrifying. Topkapi Palace. The marble floors feel like ice beneath your bare feet as you are herded through the gate of felicity. This is not a home. It is a gilded cage, the beating heart of the mighty Ottoman Empire. You are swallowed by the harem, a labyrinth of dim corridors filled with hundreds of women just like you, beautiful, captive, and destined to be forgotten. You hear the rustle of silk, the whispers in a dozen different tongues. This is a cauldron of jealousy, ambition, and terror. The older women, the Kadin, watch you with eyes sharp as daggers. They see your youth, your hair flaming like fire. And they see a threat. They name you Hurrem, the cheerful one, a cruel irony for a soul that has witnessed so much darkness. You are taught the rules. You are but an odalisque. If you are lucky and catch the Sultan's eye, you might become an Iqbal. If you bear him a prince, you become Haseki. But there is an insurmountable wall. Mahidevran, the rose of spring, the mother of the eldest prince, Mustafa, the heir apparent. She is the present, she is the destined future. And you? You are a nameless slave from Ruthenia. The laws of this empire, built over centuries, dictate that you are nothing. A sultan does not marry a slave. A sultan never lets a woman share his power. And then, you meet him, Suleiman, the magnificent, the lawgiver, the shadow of God on earth. He is not what you imagined. He is not a bearded tyrant. There is a melancholy in his eyes, the crushing weight of an empire resting on his shoulders. That night, the harem is ordered to prepare an entertainment. Girls dance, they play music. You stand in the shadows, watching. When it is your turn, you do not dance to seduce. You do not strive for grace. You step forward, chin held high. You sing a song from your lost homeland, a song of freedom and pain. Your voice is the only real thing in this stifling room of lies and perfume. Silence descends. The other dancers freeze. The eunuchs stare, aghast. Mahidevran, seated beside the Sultan, grips her hands tight. You look straight into Suleiman's eyes. You do not see a king. You see a man. And he, for the first time, does not see a slave. He sees a soul. That night, the purple handkerchief, the symbol of the Sultan's choice for his bedchamber, does not fall to the most beautiful dancer. It falls to you. The whispers begin immediately. The shock, the outrage, the Ruthenian witch, the red-headed sorceress. You feel Mahidevran's glare burning into your back. When you are led to the Sultan's chambers along the fabled Golden Road, you know this is not a night of passion. It is a battle. Inside, the room is awash in candlelight, incense, and power. You were taught to bow, to submit. But when Suleiman speaks to you, he does not ask for submission. He asks about your song. He asks about your home. You answer with a sharp wit, a courage forged in tragedy. You do not fawn over him. You challenge him. You treat him as a human being, not a deity. And in that night, amidst the Damascene silks and Iznik tiles, the impossible happens. A nameless slave captures the heart of the most powerful man in the world. The scandal is not that the Sultan has a new mistress. The scandal is that he keeps calling for you, night after night. You break the rule of one mother, one son, the brutal harem custom designed to prevent civil war. You bear him, not just one, but 6 children. Mahidevran is apoplectic. Her jealousy is not just romantic, it is political. Her position and the future of her son Mustafa is under siege. The tension explodes in violence. Historians record that Mahidevran, in a fit of rage, attacked you, scratching your face and tearing your hair. She screamed that she was the Sultan's head woman, and you were but vile flesh. You do not fight back. you let your blood flow. That evening, Suleiman calls for you. You refuse. You tell the eunuch that you, a battered slave, are not worthy to appear before your magnificent master. It is a stroke of genius. Suleiman is furious, but not at you. He summons Mahidevran. Their confrontation is private, but the aftermath is public. Mahidevran is banished. She is stripped of favor. You have won. But the cost is the eternal hatred of the old queen and her supporters. But the real war has only just begun. You realize a chilling truth. You and your children are safe only as long as Suleiman lives. His love is your only shield. But if he dies, under the Ottoman law of fratricide, the heir to the throne, Mustafa, Mahidevran's son, has the legal right to execute all his half-brothers, your sons. Love brought you here, but only absolute power can keep you and your children alive. You no longer wish to be just a Haseki. You want something Ottoman history has never allowed. You want to be the legal wife. You initiate a bold gambit. You convert to Islam. You spend hours studying the Quran, learning the Ottoman language, and becoming a patron of charity. You build mosques, schools, and hospitals. The people begin to love you. But Suleiman still cannot marry you. You are still a slave. The law forbids it. So, you ask for one final favor. You ask him to free you. You say you wish to dedicate the rest of your life to good works, and your status as a slave hinders your religious duties. Suleiman, proud of your piety, agrees. He signs the paper. You, Hurrem, are now a free woman. That night, he calls you to his chambers. As usual, you refuse. The eunuchs are terrified. To refuse the Sultan is a death sentence. But you explain calmly. You say, I am now a free Muslim woman. It would be a sin for me to share a bed with a man who is not my husband. The entire palace holds its breath. You have backed the Sultan into an impossible corner. Either he violates Islamic law, or he loses the woman he loves, or he does the unthinkable. Suleiman, the lawgiver, who wrote the rules for an empire spanning 3 continents, breaks the centuries-old tradition of his own dynasty. He marries you. A formal, legal wedding. The Ottoman Empire shakes to its foundations. The Valide Sultan, Queen Mother, the viziers, the elite. They are all horrified. A slave, a foreigner. Now, the legal queen of the Ottoman Empire. This is not merely a bedroom scandal. This is a revolution. You, Hurrem Sultan, have broken the rules. You have changed the game. But by seizing absolute power to protect your family, you have inadvertently set in motion a chain of events that will not only soak the palace in blood, but also reshape the very fall of the dynasty that lifted you up. This marriage is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the bloodiest act. Now you are the queen. But the cage has only grown larger, and the bars, though made of gold, remain cold to the touch. Your marriage is a public humiliation to the entire old order. The Valide Sultan, Suleiman's mother, who ruled the harem with an iron fist, must now acknowledge you. The pashas and viziers bow to you in ceremony, but you can see the disdain in their eyes. They call you the Russian witch, the one who cast a spell on the Sultan, the one who tainted the noble Ottoman bloodline. You realize that Suleiman's love, while powerful, is not enough. He is a king, but he is also a man besieged by the very traditions you just shattered. He is often absent on long campaigns of conquest, leaving you alone amidst the wolves. And the biggest wolf is no longer Mahidevran, the disgraced former wife. She is now but a bitter shadow. The true threat is the greatest patron of her son, Mustafa, Pargala Ibrahim Pasha, the Grand Vizier of the empire, Suleiman's best friend since childhood. The man the Sultan trusts enough to call Brother Ibrahim is a military genius, a brilliant diplomat, and he loathes you. He sees you as a dangerous anomaly, a foreign influence corrupting the purity of the empire. More importantly, Ibrahim is the staunchest and most powerful supporter of Prince Mustafa, the heir apparent. He is grooming Mustafa to be the next great sultan. You understand the cruel logic of the dynasty. As long as Ibrahim holds power, Mustafa is the future. And in that future, your sons Mehmed, Selim, Bayezid, Cihangir, are nothing but small corpses waiting for the silken cord. That fear becomes your constant companion. You dream of stone coffins. You wake in the night, cold sweat on your skin, rushing to your children's chambers just to check if they are still breathing. A mother's love, when backed into a corner by absolute power, becomes a terrifying weapon. You know you must remove Ibrahim. But how do you bring down a man the Sultan considers a brother? You cannot attack him directly. That is suicide. You must use his own strength against him, his arrogance. You begin a silent war. A war of whispers. You are no longer the girl singing sad songs of your homeland. You are now a politician. You read every report sent from the provinces. You learn every alliance, every debt, every secret in the court. You find a man. A Croatian, intelligent, ruthless, and most importantly, hungry. His name is Rustem. He is a lower-ranking official, but you see the fire in his eyes. He craves power, and he hates Ibrahim Pasha, who has looked down on him. You bring Rustem into your orbit. You elevate him. You arrange for him to marry your beloved daughter, Mihrima Sultan. Through Rustem, you begin to sow the seeds of doubt. Ibrahim, confident in his unshakable position, begins to make mistakes. He returns from a victorious Persian campaign and styles himself Saraskar Sultan, a title implying he is nearly equal to the Sultan himself. A whisper begins to circulate through the palace, a whisper you skillfully nurture. Are there two sultans in Constantinople? You do not badmouth Ibrahim to Suleiman. You do not need to. You simply ask questions. My great sultan, you say in the quiet of the night, your head resting on his chest. Ibrahim Pasha is truly a loyal friend. He even uses his own seal, as if he were a second king, all to share your burden. You watch Suleiman's silence. You feel the hitch in his heartbeat. You continue. You remind Haim of Ibrahim's immense wealth, of his palace that rivals the Sultan's own. You show Suleiman reports, provided by Rustem, suggesting Ibrahim has accepted gifts from foreign ambassadors without full disclosure. You do not accuse. You only express concern. I fear for his soul, you whisper. Pride is a sin before God. I fear the absolute power you have granted him is corrupting his pure heart. The seed is planted in fertile soil. Suleiman, the lawgiver, is a man obsessed with order and absolute control. He cannot forgive anyone, even his best friend, if that person dares to dream of his power. The shift in Suleiman is subtle, but you see it. He becomes pensive. He smiles less in Ibrahim's presence. Ibrahim senses it too. The air in the council meeting's divan grows tense. Ibrahim tries to regain favor, but the harder he tries, the more arrogant he appears. The fatal blow comes from an unexpected source. During a dinner with French ambassadors, Ibrahim, perhaps drunk on wine and power, boasts. He says, "It is I who govern this vast empire. My power can turn a groom into a vizier. What I grant remains granted. If I wish it, I can make war. I can topple thrones." These words, reported faithfully, and perhaps embellished by Rustem's spies, reach Suleiman's ears. It is the betrayal Suleiman cannot ignore. On the 15th of March, 1536, after a private dinner with the Sultan at Topkapi Palace, Pargalı Ibrahim Pasha retires to his room as usual. The next morning, he is found dead, strangled by mute executioners, the enforcers of the Sultan's secret sentences. No trial, no warning, just the cold silence of royal justice. As the news spreads, the palace is gripped by sheer terror. No one is safe. You stand on your harem balcony, overlooking the Bosphorus. You do not feel joy. You do not feel victory. You feel a cold hollowness. You have killed your husband's best friend. You have killed a part of Suleiman's soul to save your sons. You look at your hands. They are still soft and perfumed, but you know they are now stained with blood. Rustem Pasha is promoted. He becomes the new Grand Vizier. Your man now holds the second most powerful position in the empire. The first obstacle has been removed, but the cost is your last shred of innocence. And you know, the road ahead demands even more, because now, there is no one standing between you and the ultimate goal. Mustafa, the prince beloved by the people, the living symbol of the past you must destroy. The silence left by Ibrahim's death is louder than any scream. It is a void, a gaping hole in Suleiman's soul, and you have learned to fill it. You are no longer just his wife. You are his political advisor, the only confidant he still trusts. By removing Ibrahim, you have made yourself indispensable. But this victory tastes bitter. You look at your sons, they are grown now. Mehmed, your brightest star, your hope, has died of smallpox, and a part of you died with him. You are left with Selim, whose eyes are weary, and who finds solace only in wine. Bayezid, hot-headed, proud, and reckless. And Cihangir, your beloved hunchback, possessed of a sharp mind but a broken body, whom you love with desperate ferocity. You know the law. You know that if Mustafa, Mahidevran's son, ascends the throne, they will all die. And Mustafa is a perfect ghost. Every day, he looks more like the Suleiman of old, brave, just, worshipped by the Janissaries, the elite soldiers. While Suleiman grows old, plagued by gout and weary of war, Mustafa is at the height of his power in the province of Amasya. You hear the whispers from the markets, from the barracks. They do not whisper your sons' names. They whisper Mustafa's. They call him Sultan Mustafa. Every cheer for him is a knife in your chest. You realize a terrifying truth. The people and the army love him not because he is Suleiman's son, but because he is better than your sons. His very existence is a death sentence for your family. Rustam Pasha, your son-in-law, the Grand Vizier, understands this. He is a spider, and his web stretches across the empire. His power is tied to your survival. The battle is no longer for love or favor. It is a brutal cold war for the future of the empire. You begin a sophisticated campaign. You do not attack Mustafa directly. You attack his loyalty. How do you do this? By weaponizing Suleiman's greatest fear. The fear you helped plant when you destroyed Ibrahim. The fear of betrayal. Suleiman, since Ibrahim's death, has become more paranoid than ever. He trusts you, but he suspects everyone else. You and Rustam begin your work. First, you isolate Mustafa from wise counsel. You ensure those loyal to him are reassigned, sent away, or charged with petty crimes. Next, you sow wealth. Rustam, in his notorious corruption, has amassed a fortune. He uses it to bribe Janissary commanders who were once loyal to Mustafa. But the fatal strike is yet to come. Suleiman prepares for a major campaign against his arch-enemy, the Safavid Empire of Persia. This is your chance. Rustam begins a campaign of disinformation. He sends falsified reports to Suleiman, claiming the army is restless, that they want a younger, stronger sultan at the front, a sultan like Mustafa. You, in the long private nights with Suleiman, do not speak of Mustafa's guilt. You speak of your worry. I fear for your safety, you whisper, stroking his graying beard. Mustafa is a mighty warrior. The Janissaries adore him. But that love can be exploited. They might force him to do things he does not wish to do. You ask a simple question, a tiny pill of poison. Why is he in contact with the Shah of Persia? Of course, Mustafa is not. But how is Suleiman to know? Rustam has seen to that. He has had a seal forged, identical to Mustafa's personal signature. A letter is discovered on a captured Persian messenger. The letter, bearing Mustafa's seal, asks the Persian Shah for support to overthrow his old and weary father in exchange for peace and territorial concessions. It is a perfect forgery. To Suleiman, this is the worst nightmare realized. Ibrahim was arrogant. Mustafa, his golden son, is a traitor. The Sultan's rage is absolute. He is no longer a father. He is the shadow of God. And the laws of the empire must be upheld. He summons Mustafa to his military camp in Ereli. The news reaches Amasya. Mustafa is shocked. He has done nothing wrong. Mahidevran, his forgotten mother, begs him not to go. It is a trap, she weeps. That red-headed witch and her demon son-in-law have set a trap for you. Mustafa's advisors beg him too. But Mustafa, in his aristocratic innocence, believes in two things, his own innocence and his father's love. I will go, he says. I will look my father in the eye and tell him the truth. My loyalty is unshakable. He does not know that loyalty no longer has currency. You remain in Constantinople. You wait, you run the harem, you attend charity events, you pray in the mosques you built, You play the perfect queen. But your mind is hundreds of miles away, in a royal war tent. You have played your final card. You have bet the future of your sons on a fake letter and the paranoia of an old king. Mustafa rides into the camp. He sees the Janissaries, who once cheered for him, now strangely silent. They have been ordered not to speak to the prince. The air is thick with fear. He is ordered to leave his weapons behind and enter the Sultan's tent alone. As the tent flap is pulled aside, Mustafa steps in. He expects to see his father on the throne, but inside, there is no one. Only silence. And then, from the shadows of the silk hangings, 7 mute executioners step forward, carrying a white silk cord. Mustafa did not die easily. He was a warrior, the son of Suleiman the Magnificent, the commander of armies. When the silk cord tightened around his neck, primal instinct took over. He roared, a muffled, strangled sound, fighting with the strength of a wounded lion. The executioners, though professionals in death, struggled to hold him down. The thin silk of the tent shuddered with the violence of the struggle. You were not there, but you can hear it. Because just on the other side of a thin curtain, Suleiman stood, motionless as a statue. He was listening. He was listening to his son, his firstborn, the child of his youth, wrestling with death. He heard the snapping of bone, the final desperate gasp for air that was stolen away. Then, silence. A heavy, absolute silence that blanketed the entire military camp. The curtain was pulled aside. The executioners bowed. They had finished God's work, or at least the work of the shadow of God on earth. Mustafa's body was dragged out and laid upon a Persian carpet directly in front of the tent, for all to see. This was the Sultan's message: treason is punished, regardless of blood. But Suleiman had miscalculated the army's grief. First came a low moan, a sound of disbelief. Then it swelled into a roar. The Janissaries, the soldiers who had fought beside Mustafa, who saw him as their future sultan, broke. They did not see a traitor. They saw a martyr. They drew their swords. Thousands of blades hissed from their scabbards at once, a sound like rolling thunder. They dared not attack the Sultan's tent, but their fury demanded a target. They screamed a name. Not yours. They screamed the name of the architect of this conspiracy. Rustam, death to Rustam Pasha. The traitor dog rebellion was imminent. The army, the backbone of the empire, was on the brink of collapse. Suleiman, for the first time in decades, knew fear. He realized he had been pushed too far, not by enemies, but by his own paranoia, the paranoia you had so skillfully fed. He had to act. To appease the army, he needed a scapegoat. Immediately, Rustam Pasha was stripped of all titles. He was fired as Grand Vizier. Your son-in-law, the instrument of your victory, was thrown to the wolves to save the throne. He fled in the night, barely escaping with his life. When the news reached Constantinople, you realized how fragile your victory truly was. You had won. Mustafa was dead. Theoretically, the path for your sons was clear. But the cost was only just beginning to reveal itself. The news was not just sent to you. It was sent to Cihangir, your beloved youngest son. Cihangir was not a warrior. He was a poet, a sensitive soul trapped in a painful, hunched body. And Cihangir, more than anyone else, loved and adored his half-brother Mustafa. Mustafa was the only one who never mocked him, never pitied him. When Cihangir heard that his father had executed Mustafa, something inside him shattered. He did not cry. He did not scream. He simply stopped. He stopped eating. He stopped speaking. He sat in his room staring at the wall as if listening to a sound no one else could hear. You went to him. You, Hurrem Sultan, queen of the empire. You brought him food. You spoke to him with the softest words a mother possesses. He looked at you, and in the eyes of your youngest son, you did not see love. You did not see fear. You saw knowledge. He knew what you had done. You had protected your sons by murdering one, only to watch another die because of that very act. Weeks later, while Suleiman was still at the military camp, drowning in regret and the agony of his gout, Cihangir took his last breath in Constantinople. The royal physicians said he died of grief. His heart had simply broken. When Suleiman returned, He was not the man who had left. He was a hollow shell. An old king haunted by ghosts he had created. He had lost his favorite son, and now, the son he cherished most tenderly, was dead too. You, Hurrem, had gotten what you wanted. Rustem was eventually reinstated. Your son, Selim, was now the undisputed heir, but you had a new rival. A rival far more dangerous than Mustafa, because he was driven by vengeance and righteous fury. Prince Bayezid, your own son. Bayezid, the one who most resembled the young Suleiman, hot-tempered, proud and a brilliant warrior, was horrified by what you and Rustem had done. He saw the injustice in Mustafa's death, and he saw the weakness in his brother, Selim the drunkard. The war for the throne was not over. It had simply shifted lines. Now, it was not a war against the past. It was a civil war. Brother against brother. And you, Hurrem Sultan, were trapped in the middle, desperately trying to stop a tragedy for which you had written the script. You have won, but the cost of victory is silence. The silence in Cihangir's empty room, where you still order the servants to clean every day. The silence in Suleiman's eyes, now a deep ocean of regret and sickness. But most terrifying of all is the silence that precedes the storm between your two remaining sons, Selim and Bayezid. The entire empire no longer looks to Suleiman. They are looking at the two princes, the two halves of your soul, and they are picking sides. Selim, blonde, a lover of poetry and wine, the one you can control, the one who offers safety. He is backed by Rustem Pasha, who knows his future is tied to this compliant prince. And Bayezid. Oh, Bayezid, your fire, dark-haired, eyes blazing, a proud warrior, a perfect replica of the young Suleiman. He is the one the army loves, the one the people adore, and he hates you. He does not hide it. He is the only son who dares to look you in the eye and see the monster you became to protect them. He openly mourns Mustafa. He openly despises Rustem. And dangerously, he openly mocks his brother Selim, calling him the drunkard and the coward. You realize a chilling irony. You spent your life destroying Mustafa, the perfect prince, only to find that your own son, Bayezid, is becoming a second Mustafa, a hero of the people, a threat to the throne. You have reached a crossroads you never foresaw. You fought to save your sons. Now, you must choose one of them, which means condemning the other. Your cold political logic knows Selim is the only choice. An empire cannot be ruled by two sons. Bayezid is too hot-tempered, too independent. He will never be a puppet for you or Rustem. If he takes the throne, he will start a purge. He will destroy everything you built. A mother's love becomes a weapon once more. You must protect Bayezid from himself by destroying Himsayim. You begin one final campaign, not loud like the one against Ibrahim, not cunning like the one against Mustafa. This time, it is heavy with personal grief. You start to support Selim openly. You use your influence to ensure that funds, key appointments, and the support of provincial governors all tilt toward Selim. Bayezid, in the distant province of Kütahya, feels the noose tightening. He is not a fool. He sees his stipends cut, his loyalists reassigned. He feels the chill coming from Constantinople. He does what a proud, wounded heart does. He reacts. He writes furious letters to Suleiman, letters that you and Rustem ensure are read in the worst possible light. Father, he writes, I do not understand why you favor my incapable brother. I do not understand why you listen to the lies of the woman who has poisoned your court, our mother. You show that letter to Suleiman. Your hands shake, but not from fear. It is resolve. Suleiman, weary and racked with gout, does not see a son seeking love. He sees a rebel. He sees a Bayezid who dares to call his wife the queen of the empire. That woman do you see? You whisper, your voice breaking, a perfect performance of maternal pain. He hates us. He will not stop. He is a fire that will burn us all. Suleiman gives the order. He reassigns Bayezid to Amasya Mustafa's old province, an unmistakable message. It is a humiliation, a disguised exile. He sends Selim to Konya, closer to the capital. It is a public declaration. Selim is the chosen one. To Bayezid, this is a death sentence. He knows what happens next. He saw it happen to Mustafa. And so, He does what Mustafa did not do. He rebels. In the spring of 1558, Bayezid gathers his army. An open civil war erupts. Son of Hurrem against son of Hurrem. Ottoman blood flows on Anatolian soil, spilled not by enemies, but by the royal family itself. You stand at the pinnacle of power, looking down at the chessboard you set, and realize that you have lost even as you won. As news of the first skirmishes arrives, as reports of loyal Turkish soldiers slaughtering each other pour in, something inside you finally snaps. Your body, which carried you through plague, slavery, childbirth, and court intrigues, finally surrenders. You fall ill. It is not a sudden sickness. It is the accumulated exhaustion of a lifetime. A sickness the doctors cannot name, but you know exactly what it is. It is the price of power. Suleiman, who has not left his bed for months due to gout, orders himself carried to your side. The room is awash in candlelight, but it cannot chase away the cold. You look at him. He is no longer the magnificent sultan. He is just Suleiman, the man who broke tradition for you, and the man who killed his son for you. He takes your hand, a hand covered in age spots and wrinkles, but to him, it is still the hand of the red-headed slave girl who sang him a song of her homeland. He weeps. The shadow of God on earth cries like a child. Alexandra, he whispers, using the name the world has long forgotten. Do not leave me. I have lost everything. Do not let me lose you too. You look deep into his eyes. You have spent your life ensuring you would never be helpless. But now, in this final moment, you realize what true power is. You have no strength left to speak, but you use your last ounce of will to squeeze his hand. You do not speak of love. You do not speak of regret. You speak of your legacy. Salem, you breathe the name. Just that one name. It is your final command. It is your final absolution. It is your final death sentence. With that one word, you have sealed Bayezid's fate. On the 15th of April 1558, Hürrem Sultan, the freed wife, the legal queen of the Ottoman Empire, takes her last breath in Suleiman's arms. The bedroom scandal is over. But the bloodbath it initiated, now without its master controller, is about to truly begin. Your death brought no peace. It only left a void that no one could fill. For Suleiman, it was the final blow. His partner, his advisor, his rock was gone. All that remained was pain, sickness, and your final command: protect Selim. For Bayezid, your death was the end of all hope. The mother who once protected him was gone, and he knew his brother Selim and the Grand Vizier Rustam would never forgive. He knew Suleiman, in his grief and blindness, now saw him only as a threat. The civil war continued, but now it was no longer a struggle for power. It was a hunt. Suleiman poured the full might of the empire against his own son. Outnumbered, betrayed, and drained of resources, Bayezid made a final, desperate decision. He did the unthinkable. He fled. Taking his 4 young sons, your grandsons, Bayezid sought refuge at the court of the Ottoman Empire's greatest enemy, Shah Tahmasp of Persia. It was a fatal mistake. To Suleiman, this was the unforgivable sin. It was worse than Mustafa's forged letter. This was open, naked treason. The Shah of Persia initially welcomed Bayezid as a guest of honor, but in reality, he was holding the world's most valuable bargaining chip. The Shah began a bloody negotiation with Suleiman. Suleiman paid a colossal price in gold. Some historians say 400,000 gold coins, not to bring Bayezid home, but to execute the sentence right there on Persian soil. On the 25th of September, 1561, in the Persian capital of Qazvin, Ottoman executioners, permitted by the Shah, entered Bayezid's quarters. There was no resistance. Bayezid knew his time had come. He asked for only one thing: to be allowed to die with his sons. They were strangled, all of them. Your proud son, your fire, and 4 of your grandsons, killed by Ottoman gold on enemy land. The dynasty was secured. Selim the drunkard was now the sole unchallenged heir. You won. From your grave, you won. But the dynasty you paid everything to protect was now a hollow shell. Suleiman lived for another 8 years, but he was merely a ghost in royal robes. He died alone in his tent during a final siege in Hungary in 1566, old, lonely, and haunted. And Selim? The The son you chose? He ascended the throne as Selim II. He was the first sultan to never go to battle. He spent the majority of his reign drowning in wine and the pleasures of the harem. His reign marked the beginning of the slow, agonizing decline of the Ottoman Empire. Historians call the era that followed the Sultanate of Women, a period where the women of the harem, learning from your terrifying example, manipulated the throne from the shadows. You broke the rules for love. You played the game of power to save your children. But in the process, you became the very thing you hated. A ruthless force, an architect of tragedy. The bedroom scandal was not just a forbidden romance, it was a hairline fracture in the foundation of an empire, a fracture that you, Hurrem Sultan, widened with love, fear, and blood until the entire structure began to collapse from within. Centuries have passed. Topkapi Palace is now a museum. Tourists walk along the Golden Road. They admire the Iznik tiles and try to imagine the luxury. They do not hear the whispers. They do not feel the cold of the marble floors. They do not smell the scent of fear and perfume. But if you listen closely, in the silence between the harem rooms, you can still hear it, the sad song of a slave girl from Ruthenia, a song about freedom lost and an eternal warning that love, when backed into a corner by power, can build empires and it can burn them to ash.